Carter knew something had gone horribly wrong the moment the entire alien court went silent. Not the awkward kind of silence, not the confused kind. This was the kind that pressed on his ears and chest, the kind that felt like standing on the edge of an airlock with the door half open. 1,000 bioluminescent eyes stared at him from the curved marble hall, glowing faintly blue and gold. The alien guards stiffened, their spear-like weapons humming to life. And on the throne of living crystal, the alien queen leaned forward. His heart slammed against his ribs. He had only said one word. One stupid, reflexive human word. Yes. Moments earlier had been doing what he did best, trying not to die. As Earth's junior, he wasn't supposed to be on the front line of humanity's first official contact with the Empire. He was meant to be a backup, a footnote, the guy who corrected grammar after the important people finished talking. Then the lead ambassador fainted. Then the translation AI crashed. Then the Queen spoke directly too, her voice echoing like glass chimes through his skull. She had asked something long, formal, and poetic in her language, had panicked. He'd recognized fragments, honor, binding, witnessed before the stars. He thought she was asking if he understood. So he said yes. Now the Queen was smiling. It was not a gentle smile. "Let the bond be sealed," she said, her voice resonant and warm, carrying authority that made Sneeze weak. "By ancient law, the human has accepted." Accepted what? Wanted to scream. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. His translator implant buzzed, struggling to keep up as the court erupted into layered murmurs. A tall alien official stepped forward. His skin shimmered like polished obsidian, etched with glowing lines that pulsed softly. "Human Carter," he intoned, "you have spoken the word of joining." The floor seemed to tilt. I think there's been a mistake," said his voice cracking. He swallowed hard. "I didn't mean." The Queen rose from her throne. Every dropped to one knee. She descended the steps slowly, each movement precise and controlled. Up close, she was terrifyingly beautiful, not in a human way, but in a way that made feel small and seen all at once. Her eyes held galaxies. Her crown floated above her head like a halo of light. "There was no mistake," she said softly. "You answered freely." His hands shook. "I didn't know what I was agreeing to." Her gaze softened just a fraction. "That does not change the truth of it." The official turned too. "By law, a spoken acceptance before the throne is absolute. You are now betrothed." The word hit harder than any weapon. Betrothed. Engaged. To the alien queen. Somewhere behind him, a human soldier choked. Someone whispered, "Oh no," barely heard them. His world narrowed to the steady hum of the hall and the Queen's unreadable expression. "I can't marry you," blurted. "I mean no offense, Your Majesty, this wasn't supposed to happen. I'm nobody." The Queen studied him in silence. Then, unexpectedly, she laughed. It was quiet and musical, and it shattered the tension like glass. The court froze again, stunned. "Nobody," she repeated. "You stood unarmed before my throne, you spoke without fear, you answered truthfully, not knowing the cost." She stepped closer. "That is not nobody." His breath caught as she reached out and touched his wrist. Warmth spread through his skin, and the translator implant flared painfully. A symbol burned into his vision. Stars, a circle, two paths crossing. "Bond confirmed." Gasped. The Queen, her hand, her expression suddenly serious. "Do not mistake this for a trap, human. You are free to hate me for this." "I don't hate you," said weakly. "I'm just terrified." Something unreadable passed through her eyes. "Good," she said, "so am I." The court began to chant, ancient and thunderous. Above them, the stars outside the transparent dome seemed to shift, as if the universe itself had taken note. Stood there, shaking, bonded to an alien empire he barely understood, engaged to a queen who ruled 1,000 worlds. And he had no idea what would happen when Earth found out. That was when the alarms started to scream. The alarms did not sound human. They wailed in layered tones that crawled along spine, vibrating through the crystal floor and into his bones. The chanting died instantly. Guards snapped to attention, weapons flaring brighter as the glowing lines along their armor pulsed red. The queen did not move. She stood perfectly still beside, her hand hovering just inches from his arm, her gaze lifting toward the vaulted dome above the throne hall. Beyond the transparent ceiling, the stars twisted as defensive fields surged to life. Intrusion, the obsidian-skinned official announced. Unidentified jump signature at the outer boundary. His mind raced, an attack, a test, or worse, Earth. He felt suddenly exposed, painfully aware of how small and fragile he was among beings who had ruled the stars for. The faint warmth still lingered on his wrist where the queen had touched him, the bond mark glowing softly beneath his skin like a living ember. The queen turned to him. "You should be afraid now," she said quietly. "I already am," replied, his voice barely steady, "but I'm guessing this isn't about me." Her lips curved into something that was not quite a smile. "Everything is about you now." That did not help. She raised one hand, and the alarm softened to a low, controlled thrum. "Bring the image." The air shimmered in front of the throne as a holographic projection bloomed into existence. A ship emerged from the light, sleek, angular, and unmistakably human. The blue and white markings of Earth's united fleet glinted against the stars. His stomach dropped. "Oh," he whispered, that's bad." Murmurs rippled through the court again, sharper this time. The word Terrans hissed through alien mouths like a curse and a curiosity all at once. The queen's eyes narrowed. "You did not summon them." It was not a question. "No," said quickly. "I swear I didn't even know they were close enough to jump." The official stiffened. "Human war vessels do not appear by accident." "They're not war vessels," said, then he hesitated. "Well, they say they're not." The queen studied the projection in silence. Her calm unsettled more than panic would have. She looked like someone weighing lives on a scale. "At this moment," she said, "your people believe you are in danger." Swallowed, they're probably assuming the worst. "As they should," the official said coldly. "Our history with first contacts is violent." Looked at the queen. "If they fire, your defenses will respond, and then Earth will respond to that, and suddenly a misunderstanding turns into a war." "A war bound by your word," the queen said softly. The truth of it crushed him. His mistake was no longer just personal, it had become political, galactic, deadly. "I need to talk to them," said. "Please let me explain." Several guards shifted, clearly displeased. The official opened his mouth to object, but the queen raised her hand. "You will speak," she said, "but you will not speak as a prisoner." She turned fully toward, and for the first time he saw uncertainty flicker across her face. It was subtle, fragile, real. "You will speak as my intended." The word echoed louder than the alarms ever had. Stared at her. "You can't be serious." "If they believe you are coerced," she said, "they will attack. If they believe you are valued, they may hesitate." Valued, that was a generous interpretation of accidentally engaged. A platform rose smoothly from the floor, forming a smaller dais beside the throne. The queen stepped onto it and gestured for to follow. Every instinct screamed at him to run, to refuse, to wake up from whatever nightmare this was. Instead, he stepped forward. The moment he joined her, the bond mark flared again, warmth spreading through his chest. Images flickered at the edge of his mind, vast cities of light, ancient vows spoken under dying suns, a loneliness so deep it ached. He stumbled, gasping. The queen steadied him instantly, her hand firm on his back. "I did not mean to share so much," she said, startled. "You felt lonely," breathed, "for a long time." Her eyes widened. "No one spoke of that, no one ever saw it." The projection shifted, zooming in on the human ship. A familiar face appeared on the screen, admiral, stern and gray-haired, eyes sharp with worry. "Carter," the admiral said, "if you can hear this, signal immediately. We are prepared to extract you by force if necessary." The court tensed. looked up at the queen, then back at the image. His heart pounded so hard it hurt. He took a breath. "Admiral," he said, his voice echoing through alien and human channels alike. "Please don't fire." Blinked, "Are you under duress?" Hesitated. Behind him, an empire held its breath. Beside him, a queen waited. And in that fragile moment between stars, had to choose his next words very carefully. Barely had time to breathe before the queen stepped closer, her presence like gravity. The court had quieted completely, all kneeling with their eyes glowing, tracing the energy of the bond that pulsed between him and their sovereign. He could feel it now, the weight of an entire culture pressing down on him. Expectations, history, law, and something far older and deeper than that. "Human," the queen said, her voice low but carrying across the hall like a tidal wave. "Do you understand what it means to be bonded?" Swallowed, he thought he did, until the translation implant parsed the alien syllables into words his brain could handle. Every phrase felt heavier than the last. "You are joining your life to mine," she continued. "Your choices, your honor, even your mistakes will ripple through the empire." I started, but then froze. A low hum began beneath the marble floor. The walls shimmered with fractal patterns of light. The queen raised her hands, and suddenly the court itself seemed alive, its gaze focused entirely on him. He felt hundreds of invisible eyes boring into his very soul. "You will stand here," she said, "not as a prisoner, not as a guest, but as my chosen partner. Your word, your human word, is now binding." His heart raced. His palms were slick, and the bond mark on his wrist burned hotter, pulsing in time with his panicked heartbeat. I didn't mean to." "You will speak again," she said, interrupting him, and this time with intention. Before he could protest, ceremonial lights flared across the hall, shifting from soft gold to a fiery red. A procession of elders floated forward, their translucent robes trailing glowing threads that left sparks in the air. Each elder carried an object, some sharp, some soft, some indescribable. Each seemed to hum with an energy that made his hair stand on end. The queen extended her hand and, trembling, took it. The warmth from her touch wasn't comforting, it was transformative. The moment their hands connected, visions flashed behind his eyes. Endless skis of colors he didn't have names for, alien cities that glimmered like living stars, and a loneliness that reached across centuries. He gasped, What is that?" "That is the weight of our lives," she whispered, "and soon the weight of ours together." Suddenly, the projection of Admiral flickered again at the far end of the hall, his voice cutting through the tense air. "Are you okay? What's happening?" Swallowed hard. I'm alive," he said, "but it's complicated." Narrowed his eyes. "Complicated how?" I'm bonded," said, the words tasting strange and terrifying on his tongue. "Engaged to her." He gestured toward the queen. The queen's eyes flicked to him, and he caught a glimmer of amusement, or was it curiosity? She didn't speak, letting the moment stretch. His mind raced. He had to maintain credibility with Earth without enraging an alien empire, and he had to survive, somehow. The queen said softly, her voice now intimate, almost gentle, "Do not forget. You agreed freely. That matters more than you think. The universe respects the truth of a word, even one spoken in fear." Fear, that word made shiver. He had never felt this level of exposure, not in his life. And yet, despite the terror, despite the sheer absurdity of the situation, he felt an undeniable pull toward her. Something ancient. Something that promised danger and wonder all at once. The elders began a slow, hypnotic chant. The walls pulsed with light in rhythm with the words. A circular pattern formed around, and the queen on the floor, glowing with symbols he couldn't comprehend. "Step forward," the queen commanded. Her hand pressed lightly on his chest, guiding him to the center of the circle. Sneeze wobbled, every instinct screamed to flee, and yet he stepped. One step, then another. The warmth from her hand felt like a tether, an anchor in a storm. The symbols on the floor flared, and for a moment felt a rush of clarity. He understood things, tiny, almost meaningless things at first. The weight of a vow, the power of choice, the responsibility of a single human life in an alien empire. And then, terrifyingly, he understood more. The queen was not just a ruler. She was the embodiment of her people's soul, and he was bound to it. A hush fell over the hall. Even the humans outside couldn't imagine the ritual happening now. His breath caught in his throat. He was no longer just a human, he was something else, something alien and new. The Queen's gaze softened for just a fraction. "Now," she said, "we wait." Blinked, "Wait for what?" "The first test of your bond," she replied. "The eyes will judge, and they do not forgive lies." Stomach churned, he wanted to run, he wanted to scream, and yet he couldn't. Because the Queen had just whispered a promise that echoed in his chest. "We are bound, and together we may survive this." Outside, the stars shifted, and a warship of Earth hovered closer than anyone should have dared. And the universe seemed to hold its breath. The air in the throne hall thickened as the elders closed in, forming a perfect circle around and the Queen. Each elder's translucent robes glimmered like liquid starlight, their glowing lines shifting in rhythm with their chant. His head spun. He felt exposed in a way he had never known, a tiny human caught in the center of an empire that had existed long before Earth had even been born. The Queen's hand remained on his chest, warm and steady. "Do not fear what you cannot control," she whispered. "The eyes will see the truth of your heart. Speak it, and they may accept you." Swallowed hard. The eyes weren't literal, or maybe they were, he wasn't sure. Every presence seemed to radiate an awareness so intense it made his skin crawl. He could feel their scrutiny as a tangible weight pressing down on him. His pulse hammered in his ears. What if I fail?" he asked, voice barely audible. "Then," the Queen said, her tone sharp as crystal, "you will need to survive anyway. But failing is not death, it is dishonor. And dishonor can be repaired if the truth is found." Nodded even though he barely understood. Truth. He was holding onto that word like a life raft. The chanting reached a peak. The floor beneath him began to glow, symbols spinning into intricate constellations, connecting in patterns that made his stomach twist. The bond mark on his wrist flared brightly, searing warmth that burned and comforted at the same time. He felt her presence like a lifeline. Then the first elder spoke, their voice echoing through his mind rather than the air. His translator scrambled to interpret it, but the meaning came through raw and clear. "Human, show the truth of your spirit. Let the bond not be forced, but chosen." His throat went dry. Chosen? He had said one word, one stupid word, and somehow that had bound him to this alien Queen. Chosen seemed impossible. He wanted to run. He wanted to disappear into the stars. But when he looked at her, the Queen's gaze held something he hadn't expected: patience, expectation, and vulnerability. "You're human," she said softly, audible this time. "You are afraid, and yet you stand. That alone speaks." Her words calmed him slightly, though terror still gnawed at his gut. He took a deep breath. I didn't mean to agree. I don't even fully understand your laws. He faltered. "You just what?" I just wanted to survive," admitted. "I didn't want to be trapped in some political nightmare, but now I know there's no escaping it." And he hesitated, heart hammering. "I don't hate you, I can't, not even if I tried." The circle of elders seemed to shiver with energy. Didn't know if it was approval or shock, but he felt it as a pulse through the floor. The Queen's hand pressed harder against his chest. "You speak truth," she said, "and truth is rare among humans." His lips quirked in a nervous half-laugh. "I guess I'm lucky then, or cursed." The Queen's lips curved faintly. "Perhaps both. The bond chooses not only by law, but by the spirit it touches." Then, without warning, the atmosphere shifted. The glow in the room deepened, almost blinding. The symbols on the floor twisted faster, converging on his feet. His bond mark throbbed violently, a white-hot pulse that spread up his arm. "What's happening?" he shouted. "The eyes are opening fully," the Queen said, voice calm yet urgent. "Now you will feel everything, their judgment, their memory, their history. You must survive it." Felt a rush of alien knowledge. Centuries of rule, triumph, sorrow, and countless betrayals flooded his mind. Each pulse of light carried emotion, joy, grief, longing. He staggered, clutching his head. "Aye," he gasped. "Yes, you can," the Queen said, her voice a lifeline in the chaos. "And you will." Then, unexpectedly, one of the elders stepped forward, taller than the others, its glowing lines spinning like a spiral galaxy. It bent close too. "Your heart is honest," it said, "but you do not yet trust yourself, fear clouds judgment." Swallowed hard, I trust you," he whispered almost to himself. A silence fell. The circle pulsed once, slowly, deliberately. The floor dimmed. The elders retreated to their places. The bond mark burned bright, then faded to a soft, steady glow. The queen's eyes softened. "You have passed the first test." Stumbled backward, breathing heavily. That was only the beginning," she said. Her tone hinted at secrets yet untold. "And now your people watch from afar. They know of your engagement. They know of our bond." Froze, "They know." She nodded, "And soon they may act. You will need to convince them, human, or the stars themselves may answer with fire." Looked out at the transparent dome, at the distant warship waiting beyond the field, and realized just how deep he had fallen. One wrong word had cost him Earth's safety, given him a galaxy-spanning responsibility, and bound him to a queen he barely understood. And yet, as he looked at her, standing there like a living star, he felt something strange, a fragile, terrifying hope. A hope that he could survive this. A hope that maybe, just maybe, he could fall in love with it. The stars outside shimmered ominously, and the first human message crackled over the comms. "What the hell are you doing?" His chest tightened as he watched the human warship hover at the edge of the defensive field. The Earth fleet looked impossibly small from the Queen's throne hall, yet he knew every laser, missile, and jump drive could obliterate everything around him in an instant. And if the Queen allowed her defenses to respond, Earth would retaliate. A single misstep, one wrong command, and billions of lives were at risk. "Calm yourself," the Queen whispered, her hand finding his again. The warmth of her touch steadied him more than any training or protocol could. "They see only what you allow them to see. Speak carefully, human." I don't even know if I can convince them," admitted, voice tight. "They'll think I've been captured, or worse." "They already think that," she said softly. "But fear is not absolute. Trust can be built." Took a deep breath and activated his comm link. His voice came out shakier than he intended, but it carried across the void. "Admiral," he said, forcing authority into his tone. "This is Lieutenant Carter, temporarily engaged to Queen of the Empire." There was a stunned pause on the line, Hurd's heavy breathing. "Engaged what?" "I know it sounds insane," said, clenching his jaw. It's complicated. But I am here voluntarily and the Queen has agreed to negotiations. You cannot fire." Silence, then barked, incredulous. "We've been tracking you. We thought you were compromised." "I'm not," shouted, frustrated. "Look, you need to understand something. One wrong word, one stupid word spoken out of panic has bound me to her. I can't undo it. But I can negotiate peace. Please trust me. Trust that I am still human." The Queen stepped forward, her eyes calm but piercing. She raised her hand, and the holographic projection of the human fleet shimmered, showing the ship's movements. "They will not fire," she said but loud enough for the projection to pick up. "If your people attack, they risk annihilation, but if you speak truthfully, human, they may hesitate. You will be the bridge." Swallowed, glancing at her, the weight of her words pressed on him. "Bridge, right." He squared his shoulders. "Admiral, this is your chance. I am alive, I am safe, but you must trust me. I am here of my own will. I am engaged to her. And yes, that is as strange as it sounds, but it is the truth." There was a long silence, then exhaled, heavy and slow. "God help us all," he muttered. "All right, Carter, we'll hold fire, but one wrong move." "I know," said, relief mingled with dread. "One wrong move and the galaxy could burn, I get it." The Queen's gaze lingered on him, something unreadable shining behind her star-filled eyes. For a moment felt dizzy, not from fear, something else. Connection. It was terrifying, intimate, and impossible to ignore. Then came a sudden alarm in the throne hall, startling him out of his thoughts. The sensors had detected a second anomaly, a ship approaching, faster and smaller than the Earth fleet. It darted between stars with reckless speed. "Another ship?" asked. The Queen's expression sharpened. "Pirates, raiders from the outer colonies, they have no allegiance. They will attack indiscriminately." Stomach dropped. A real threat. He could understand that at least, something tangible. What do we do? We fight, she said, her tone calm but commanding. And you? She stepped close, so close he could feel the faint pulse of energy radiating from her. We'll show them that humans and can stand together. Your words matter. Your courage matters. Your bond matters. His throat tightened. Courage, bond, together. He wanted to step back, to run, to disappear. But a strange certainty rooted him in place. Somehow the impossible had become possible. Somehow he was exactly where he needed to be. All right, he said, his voice firm, surprising even himself. Let's do this. The Queen's lips curved into a faint smile. Good, then let us begin the dance of defense. The court erupted into motion. Elders chanted, lights flared, and felt the bond mark on his wrist thrum with energy. He was connected to everything in the room, every decision, every pulse. The weight was terrifying, but he was no longer alone. As the first enemy ship streaked toward the perimeter, his heart hammered. He raised his hand instinctively and felt the Queen's guidance flow through him, steadying his nerves. Together they faced the oncoming storm. And for the first time since stepping into the throne hall, didn't feel like a terrified human lost among stars. He felt like someone who belonged, even if belonging came with the threat of war and a queen he barely understood. The first shots of the battle lit up the void, and knew this was only the beginning. The alarms shrieked again, but this time didn't flinch. He was too busy holding onto the Queen's hand, feeling the bond's warmth surge through him like a second heartbeat. The defenses flared, beams of pulsing light cutting through the darkness of space toward the raiders' small, reckless ships. Explosions lit the void, distant but terrifyingly close in the projection. Do I have to direct them? Asked, panic threatening to rise despite the Queen's steady presence. No, she said, her voice calm, commanding. But your confidence will guide them. They sense doubt in you. He swallowed hard. He was human. He had no military training for interstellar combat beyond simulations. And yet somehow he felt the pulse of the defense grid through the bond mark, like a rhythm he could follow. Okay, he said shakily, just let me try. The Queen smiled faintly, a flash of something human in her alien perfection. Try, and they will follow. Raised a trembling hand. Energy flowed from the floor of the throne hall, projected into the holographic ships. He felt it in his chest, a strange resonance he didn't fully understand. The bond didn't make him a soldier, it made him connected. The fleet responded to his intentions like a living thing. Focus on the gaps, he muttered to himself, feeling the hum of power through the bond. Redirect the energy, anticipate. The small raider ship darted toward the perimeter, lasers flaring. His pulse raced. He saw the path it would take, predicted the angles. He sent a surge of guidance through the bond. The raider missed. Another beam cut through its engines, and it spun violently into the void. The Queen's hand tightened around his. Good, steady, do not falter. Could hear the fear in his own voice as he called out, coordinating the defense with instinct, heart, and the bond pulsing through him. One by one, the raider ships fell, until only a single vessel remained. It was smaller, faster, and more unpredictable. They're trying to test me, muttered. His palms were slick with sweat. They know I'm inexperienced. Then do not give them hesitation, the Queen said, her voice firm. Lead them to the truth of our unity. Took a deep breath. The bond mark flared again, searing warmth that spread up his arm and into his chest. He realized with a shiver that the Queen's presence wasn't just support, it was amplification. Together they were more than human or alone. They were a force that could bend the tide of battle. The last raider ship streaked toward the defensive ring, weaving between energy beams. Visualized its path, sent guidance through the bond. The Queen's eyes met his, and for a brief heartbeat it felt intimate, as if they were communicating without words. Then a burst of light. The raider exploded in a silent flare that lit the projection like a miniature sun. Stumbled back, breathing heavily. We did it, he whispered. The Queen's hand lingered on his, warmth flowing into him. Yes, but you must understand, she said softly, almost personally, that every victory carries a consequence. Your people now watch what you are capable of, and not all of them will understand. Stomach churned. He had saved the throne hall, prevented the raiders from breaking through, and proven some kind of strange, dangerous worth. And yet, he could feel the eyes of Earth on him, suspicious and wary. One misstep and they could decide he had been compromised or worse, coerced. "I know," he said, his voice trembling, "but I won't fail, not while I can still speak the truth." The Queen's lips quirked, a hint of approval, or was it amusement touching her alien features? "Then you will survive, and perhaps, human, you will even learn what it means to trust yourself." Exhaled, letting the tension drain slowly. His legs shook from adrenaline, but he felt something else now, a strange pride, a growing connection he couldn't fully articulate. He looked at her. The Queen, the alien ruler of 1,000 worlds, his engagement, his bond. And he realized, terrifyingly, that he didn't want this moment to end. But then the hollow projection flickered. Another signal appeared, this one urgent, distorted. Admiral's face filled the screen. His expression was grim. "There's a new development, something bigger than these raiders. You need to see this. Now." His chest tightened. He had survived the first test, coordinated defense, and won the respect of a queen and her empire. But the universe wasn't finished with him yet. And neither was Earth. The projection shifted, stars stretching and warping as Admiral brought up a new image. His breath caught in his throat. It wasn't a ship. It was a structure. Vast, ancient, drifting between systems like a dead god, its surface carved with symbols that made the elders recoil in visible dread. Even with his limited understanding, felt a cold pressure behind his eyes as the bond reacted violently. The Queen stiffened beside him. "That should not exist," she said, her voice suddenly tight. "It was sealed before your species learned to walk upright." Swallowed on the other end of the transmission. "Our probes just identified it. Whatever it is, it's emitting a signal, not an attack pattern. A call." Felt it then, not as sound but as meaning. Grief, rage, hunger. "It's awake," whispered. The Queen turned to him sharply. "You can hear it." He nodded, pulse racing. "Not hear, feel like it's looking for something or someone." The elders erupted into rapid, fearful speech. The translator struggled, but fragments bled through. "World-ender, oath-breaker, devourer of bonds." The Queen's hand tightened around. "It feeds on divided empires," she said quietly. "On fear, on lies." His voice cut in tense. "Queen or not, that thing is headed toward populated space, Earth included, if we can't stop it." "You will," said suddenly. Everyone turned to him. The word surprised even himself. "I don't know how," he continued, heart pounding, "but I know this. It woke up because of me, because of this bond. Because for the first time, two species who were supposed to fear each other didn't." The Queen searched his face. "You believe the bond drew its attention." "I know it did," said, "and I think it can end it too." Silence fell over the hall. "You would place yourself between it and the stars," an elder said, voice heavy with disbelief. "You are fragile, brief-lived." Laughed weakly. "Yeah, that's kind of our thing." He turned to the Queen then, really looking at her. Not as a ruler, not as an alien. As someone who had been alone for a very long time. "I didn't choose this," he said softly. "But I won't run from it. I won't let my mistake destroy two worlds, or yours." The bond flared, warm and fierce, and this time he didn't stumble. He stood steady. The Queen stepped closer, her voice low, carrying only for him. "If you do this, there is no retreat. The bond will deepen, permanently." He met her gaze. "Then don't let me face it alone." For a long moment, the universe seemed to pause. Then the Queen did something no ruler had done in recorded history. She bowed her head. "I stand with my chosen," she said, voice ringing through the throne hall. "Let the stars bear witness." The bond ignited. Light surged outward, not violent but radiant. Human and systems linked through like a living bridge. Earth's fleet stabilized. The Empire's defenses aligned. For the first time, two civilizations acted as one. The ancient structure reacted. Its signal faltered. Confusion rippled through it, followed by something like pain. Stepped forward, power humming through every nerve. He didn't shout, he didn't threaten. He spoke. "You were born from broken promises," he said, voice steady. "From fear and betrayal, but that's not how this ends." The bond carried his words across the void. "We choose differently." The structure began to fracture, not exploding but unraveling, its purpose undone. Piece by piece, it collapsed into harmless dust, scattering across the stars like ash. Silence followed. Then breath returned to the room. Stared at the projection, stunned. "You just rewrote First Contact doctrine." Exhaled shakily. "Yeah, I should probably apologize for that." Laughter rippled through the throne hall. Real laughter, relieved. The Queen turned to him, her expression softer than he had ever seen it. "You spoke one wrong word," she said, "and then all the right ones." Smiled faintly. "So, about that engagement." Her eyes glimmered. "You are free to walk away." He felt the weight of that choice settle into his chest. Earth, the stars, a future he had never imagined. He squeezed her hand. "I think," he said, heart pounding, "I'd like to learn your customs properly this time." Her smile was radiant. Above them, two empires watched a human and an alien queen stand side by side. And the galaxy learned a dangerous, beautiful truth. Sometimes, humanity's greatest strength isn't its weapons. It's the courage to mean what it says.